we're allowed to have opinions. It's part of what makes us individuals is you think one thing, James Hardy may think another, Paradise may think another. We all have what we hold to be true or our beliefs about a thing. Those are our opinions. But it comes a point where your opinion, if it's not based in fact, or even if it's based in innuendo, becomes reckless, becomes dangerous. And that's what I believe Colin Cowherd, I guess he's a television. He does television now with FS1, and he's doing radio for Fox Sports Radio. Very popular show. I don't know how he's doing it at Fox Sports, but at ESPN, he was one of their mainstays. He's known for being loud. He's known for being brash. He's known for having some controversial opinions. I had a conversation with a media colleague. I guess it was 2 or 3 months back, and I'm finding this to be true. Have you noticed there's been an evolution of opinions to be more outlandish over the last 4 or 5 years? We have a reason for that. Because now, let me explain to you a little old school media thing. There was a time in media where you had to almost earn the right to give an opinion. You coming out of college, getting a newspaper job, you don't get to give your opinion. Because guess what? No one knows you, no one trusts you, and no one, frankly, cares what your opinion is when you're right out of college. You have to have earned a right to write a column, to give opinions. Cecil Hurt at the Tuscaloosa News, my colleague, has earned that right. He writes opinion pieces. I do not. I write fact. I report things that have happened. Okay? There are people way less experienced than myself, way less time covering this team than myself. When I say this team, I mean Alabama football, who write columns now. The rules have changed. The internet has made it so anyone can give an opinion. And as that opened up to everyone, guess what? To get more attention, people started making their opinions wilder and wilder and wilder. To the point now where even if what was considered a strong opinion 20 years ago, you wouldn't even bat an eye at today. Today, to get a reaction, you have to say something ludicrous. And that's where Colin Cowherd went. I do find some of the stuff he said was true. You can make an argument that Alabama players are coached really well. You can make an argument that, hey, they're nearer their ceiling than a player from another program. That's fair criticism, if you want to call that criticism. I think that just says Alabama's got good coaching staffs and knows how to develop their players. Where you start getting a little misguided is when you start saying no one wants to work with Nick Saban. Look how many offensive coordinators he's had. Okay, I take issue with that. How many offensive coordinators does Nick Saban have? Let's count them. Major Applewhite, Jim McElwain, Doug Nussmeier, Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkisian, and now Brian Daboll. Am I missing anyone? There's 6 of them, right? Let's go through the list. And let's see which ones didn't want to work with Nick Saban. Let's go through this list and say, let's figure out which guys didn't want to work with Nick Saban, because apparently Nick Saban can't keep an offensive coordinator. Let's do that. Major Applewhite wasn't a good fit. Pretty much fired, but not officially. Okay, there's one. Jim McElwain left for a head coaching job. He was at Alabama from 2008 through 2011. Doug Nussmeier. It was kind of a mutual parting of the ways. He was there from Alabama from 2012 to 2013. Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin was fired, was he not? I mean, we're going to call it like it is. Lane Kiffin was fired. Plus, he got a head coaching job. Did he not? Steve Sarkisian left to go coach a team that should have won a Super Bowl with offensive weapons galore. He coached one game. So are we really saying we're going to look at that list and say, you know what? I don't know. Nobody wants to work for Nick Saban. Give me a break. That's where his opinion starts skidding off the road, where he hits the gas and permanently decides he can no longer take the freeway. He's just gone on. He's off. He's flying off the cliff, baby. Is when he gets reckless and says Alabama hides injuries from NFL teams. A lot of people misconstrued what I said on Twitter over the weekend because, the 140 character limit on Twitter limits what you can say. When I said I think it's dangerous, I think it's reckless for you to suggest, or not even to suggest, he flat out came out and said Alabama hides injuries. I'm not talking about hiding injuries from the media. That's one thing. That's a competitive advantage. That's one thing. He's insinuating Alabama's hiding injuries from NFL teams. That constitutes fraud, does it not? Isn't that basically accusing someone of fraud? And please show me your proof before you say that on a nationally syndicated radio show. Oh, I know. It was an anonymous scout, wasn't it? It was an anonymous scout that said it. Now, to be fair in this, that story I wrote last week, that tackled the subject, are Alabama players overrated? And I brought some empirical data to back up, no, in fact, they're not overrated. They outperform their other first-round counterparts. Remember that? Well, I did talk to a scout, and I didn't want to give it away at the time, but now that the story's kind of cooled down, I'll go ahead and tell you. This scout works for a team who has not drafted an Alabama player in the Nick Saban era and said they have concerns about Alabama players being beat up. Okay, that's fine. Suggesting that Alabama players are beat up a little bit because they've played a high level of football for a long time, that's fair. Suggesting that Alabama is fraudulent in how it deals with that information with teams is reckless. It's flat out reckless. I guess first off, you tackle this injury thing, which I've been back. I'll just circle back to it. You can't hide injuries. First off, because guess what? Every player undergoes an extensive physical. And it does Alabama no good. To hide it? What are you talking about hiding it? And now you're talking about Alabama. Suddenly it's Alabama's fault that the district attorney in Louisiana chose not to prosecute Cam Robinson and Hootie Jones. That's Alabama's fault? Alabama's hiding that? Are you kidding? For the most part, I think fans, when they say that media has it out for a individual or a team, I think it's conspiracy theory talk. I work in the business. I don't see it. With a few people in the media, I do see it. And if you want to make an argument about Alabama players being beat up a little bit, there's a compelling argument that can be made. And you've got plenty of data to back that up. But when you start reaching to add to that argument, to kind of backhand Alabama in that, well, Nick Saban's only won one national championship in 4 years, as if that's a bad thing. When you start adding in, well, Alabama doesn't discipline its players, they're trying to hide the Cam Robinson thing. Alabama didn't do that. Alabama didn't hide it. Alabama didn't have any control of the district attorney in Louisiana neglecting to press charges against Cam Robinson and Hootie Jones. When you start adding to that argument and reaching for things like coaches don't want to work for them, now you're coming across like you got a bias. And that's fair game, that accusation, because that rant by Colin Cowherd, it's based in a little bit of reality, but the rest might as well be out there, man. It's just you're reaching and you're building a straw man. Just absolutely building a straw man. I think my favorite part of that was Nick Saban doesn't have all the answers. He's only won one national championship in 4 years. As if that's a bad thing. You know how many teams in Division I college football would say, oh, I'll take one national championship every 4 years. He says that as if he's building a point against Nick Saban. Okay, fella. They were 1 second away from going back-to-back for the second time in Nick Saban's tenure, but sure, Nick Saban didn't have all the answers. What's the point of saying Nick Saban doesn't have all the answers? Because if you started off on a point of what's going on with Alabama players, why are they so beat up, why are they sliding, there is an argument to be made. There is a debate, a discussion that can be had about that. That's based in reality. But when you start adding to it, you come across like you have an axe to grind. And don't tell me it's just good radio. You got great radio with just that one topic. Is Alabama are Alabama players beat up? Are Alabama players wearing their players out? There's an argument that can be made there. Very good, and it makes for good radio. You don't have to throw on top of this absolute fallacy that offensive coordinators are running away from Nick Saban. Well, a lot of them have gotten head coaching jobs. Is that running away? No, he's not easy to work for. I'm not going to make that. But that's a different topic entirely. When you reach for it, that Nick Saban have all the answers. They've only won one national championship in 4 years. Oh, well, might as well shut the program down. Guys, I'm sorry. I know you've been to the college football playoff in all 3 years of its existence. I know that you won a national championship in 2015. I know you were a couple seconds away from another one last year. But you know what? One national championship in 4 years is not good enough, Nick. So we're gonna shut the program down because Colin Cowherd obviously knows that when he mentions you, he gets attention. And that's what this is about. He gets attention. And that's fine. But where I think it's dangerous, and I think I've used the word reckless a few times, is when you say Alabama hides this information. No, they don't. Doctors aren't going to lie. I know some of the team doctors at Alabama. They're not going to lie. They have ethics. They have a code they have to take when you become a doctor. An oath. They're not going to lie. It's their careers. They're not going to lie. If a player's got some issues, they're going to tell you. So don't sit there and tell me that Alabama is like the CIA black ops that are hiding injuries from NFL teams. Not buying it. Is Alabama hiding the character issues from about their players to NFL teams? I don't think so. You know the character issues just like I do because I report on them. When a player gets arrested, I tell you about it. When that player has a run-in with the law, I tell you about it. Alabama can't hide that. It's public record. When Cam Robinson and Hootie Jones got arrested, I wrote a story about it. Alabama didn't send in its CIA black ops team to shut me down. When Tim Williams got popped in a Publix parking lot for drugs that he and his friends were allegedly holding for Brandon Chicken, they didn't shut that story down. It got written. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about a guy who's got a legitimate issue, who could have made a really compelling segment of radio and chose to extend it, and it got so flimsy, the entire thing fell apart. That's what you have. Because at the end of the day, Alabama gets attention. Oh, and by the way, if Alabama players are so used up and so overrated, then why did 4 of them go in the first 32 picks? Why did an 1/8 of the draft in the first round consist of Alabama players? Why did 7 of those players go in the first, 79 picks? 7 players and 79 picks? Why did 10 of them get drafted overall? I can't hear you. Speak up. Oh, you got crickets to say now. Because Alabama players are so beat up and so used up and are such horrible people, they got such horrible character issues, then why do they keep getting drafted? Oh, yeah. You got caught up in an argument. You built your argument you established your base too wide, and everyone knows if you build on a flimsy surface, what's going to happen to that building. Tim Burr.
He does also realize that we're playing football in the SEC. We're not throwing marshmallows at each other on the field.
It's a rough game. And Alabama players are tough. They're mentally tough. They're physically tough. And they get beat up. Also, I mean, not to just drop any more facts on you, but first round selection every year since 2009. That's Nick Saban's Alabama team. And I get upset when people in the media do disingenuous, unethical things, and saying Alabama is hiding information crosses the line. It's reckless, it's dangerous, and you have zero facts to support your argument. Zero. Are Alabama players a little beat up? Yeah. I've tried to tackle the subject. It's absolutely something to it. But pretty sure they're not doing anything over there to put a player's health in jeopardy. I know those doctors. They don't do that.